Alright, this is going to sound insane, but the first time a human ever discovered a brand new element, not iron, not gold, but something totally unknown, happened because a guy was boiling buckets of human pee. And not just a little, it was gallons. Yeah, this isn't a myth. This isn't a metaphor. This is real history. What's wild is he wasn't even trying to discover anything new. He was just trying to make gold. Instead, he discovered something way more important, a glowing mysterious substance known as phosphorus. And once you hear the full story, from alchemy, from failed experiments, to how this glow-in-the-dark glue ended up in fertilizer to DNA, it's going to blow your mind. Trust me, this one's worth sticking around for. Alright, let's rewind a bit. So we're in Europe in the 1600s. There's no electricity, no periodic table, no concept of atoms or molecules. Science as we know it today didn't exist. Instead, we had alchemy. It was kind of a mix between magic, science, and wishful thinking. Alchemists weren't trying to understand the world, they were trying to hack it. They believed that there were secret formulas, mystical recipes, and hidden elements. And if you cracked the code, you could do things like live forever, cure diseases, and most famously, turn lead into gold. That was the obsession, trying to find the Philosopher's Stone. Not the one from Harry Potter, the one that was supposed to make you filthy rich and immortal. Naturally, everyone was trying to find it. And that brings us to one alchemist in particular, Hennig Brand. He was a German merchant who thought that you could turn something from the human body into gold, and that something was urine. He believed that because urine had a golden color. And back then, that wasn't considered insane. Alchemists were constantly experimenting with bodily fluids, metals, and plants. You name it, hoping to find gold. So Brand got to work, and when I say got to work, he collected gallons of urine, stored it, let it rot, and then eventually boiled it down. What makes this interesting is they weren't completely wrong. While their methods were bizarre, they still discovered things in their own way. It's like trying to build a rocket without instructions and accidentally inventing gunpowder. And what Brand discovered next, by pure accident, would be the first element discovered by a human being. So Brand has a stash of urine, buckets and buckets of it, collected over who knows how long, and he starts his process. First he let it sit, not for hours, but for days. He believed that the longer it fermented, the more potent it became, and that meant the smell became unreal. Then he boiled it, slowly, over an open fire, stirring this thick yellow liquid that kind of looked like a paste. It wasn't just heating, it was cooking this stuff. Imagine the texture of caramel, just way, way worse. Next he poured this liquid into a sealed glass vessel, kind of like a retort, and then heated it even more. He was using a type of distillation process, trying to drive off anything that might transform. And then something strange happened. Out of the muck, a white, waxy substance started to collect in the neck of the glassware. At first it didn't seem special, but then Brand opened the vessel and the stuff glowed. Not just a shimmer or shine, the stuff literally glowed in the dark. A soft, ghostly green-white light. No fire, no heat, just this mysterious glow coming off the substance. Brand had no idea what he was looking at. He thought he maybe discovered the path to gold, but what he actually discovered was phosphorus. And that glow is because white phosphorus oxidizes when it touches air, releasing energy in the form of light. It's a process called chemiluminescence. It basically glows without burning. This was the moment that changed history, a bucket of waste to a glowing new element. Before this element, all the elements that had been known like gold, copper, iron, silver had been passed down from ancient times. We didn't discover them as so much inherent them. They were dug up, used, and passed down through civilizations. Nobody in recorded history had ever found an unknown natural element before. Phosphorus changed that. It wasn't mined, it wasn't legendary, it hadn't been written about by the Greeks or Egyptians. Brand created it through a weird accidental process that no one had attempted before. And without knowing it, he cracked the door to what would be eventually called the periodic table. And what's even weirder, Brand hadn't even really understood what he had done. He still thought it might be a version of gold or something magical, but what he really had done is a modern element discovery. It took years for anyone to truly grasp what phosphorus was, how it behaved, and what it could be used for. But it all started here, with a failed gold experiment that accidentally became a scientific revolution. Okay, so we've covered how phosphorus was discovered, but now let's talk about what it actually is. Phosphorus is number 15 on the periodic table. It's a non-metal, and what makes it so interesting is how widely different it can be depending on its form. The stuff Hennig Brand found, the glowing reactive version, is called white phosphorus. It's incredibly unstable. Leave it out in the open, and it can spontaneously catch fire when reacting with oxygen. That's why he had to keep it stored underwater. It was the only way to keep it from catching fire on its own. But here's the twist. Phosphorus doesn't just come in one flavor. There's also red phosphorus, and it's a lot more stable. It doesn't glow, it doesn't light up when it comes in contact with air. This is the type of phosphorus you find on matchboxes. The rough strip on the side that helps ignite a match when you strike it, that's red phosphorus. Then there's black phosphorus, which is more like graphite. It's kind of flaky and dark and used in more high-tech material science. But that wasn't discovered till much later. So even though it started off as a weird glowing urine experiment, phosphorus turned out to be incredibly versatile, capable of existing in completely different forms depending on how it was processed. And that's what makes it the chemist's dream. One element, multiple personalities. So here's the point that brings it all home, why it matters today. Well, phosphorus isn't just some historical curiosity, it's an absolute must in modern life. You might not see it, but it's working behind the scenes in a huge number of ways. First off, it's critical in agriculture. It's one of the 3 main ingredients in fertilizer. That NPK label you see on garden bags? The P stands for phosphorus. Without it, crops don't grow. But it also doesn't just stop with soil. Phosphorus is inside you too. It's in a major way. It's one of the building blocks of DNA and RNA. It's in the molecules that literally make you who you are. It's also an ATP, which is basically the battery section of your cells, which is used to store and transfer energy. Every time you blink, breathe, or move, phosphorus is making that happen behind the scenes. And here's the crazy part, we're actually running out of easily accessible phosphorus on Earth. Most of it comes from phosphate rock, and scientists believe that we could be running out of it in the next century, which means we're trying to figure out ways to recycle it better, even from wastewater, which brings the story weirdly full circle. A substance discovered from human waste, it just might be the key to future survival. So what happened to Hennig Brand after he discovered phosphorus? Not much, actually. He didn't become rich, he didn't become famous, and he definitely didn't know what he had made. In fact, Brand had kept the method of making phosphorus a secret for years. He hoped he could still make it into gold or make a profit from it somehow. Eventually, though, word got out. Other scientists started reverse engineering the method, and then phosphorus was just no longer his. And over time, the true chemical nature was revealed. And Brand, he quietly faded into the background. Sometimes history doesn't celebrate the people that made the biggest discoveries, but that doesn't make their stories any less incredible. It's all kind of wild when you think about it. A guy with no lab, no tools, and absolutely no idea what he was doing ended up being the first person to discover a brand new element. Not with a microscope, not with math, but with buckets of human waste and curiosity. That's the magic of early science. It was messy, it was wrong a lot, but every once in a while, they struck gold, even if it wasn't what they were looking for. If you like this story, make sure to check out some of my other videos. Trust me, you don't want to miss them.